Jorden polun, mycket där och då. När i hösten och bakar i skon. Jorden polun, mycket där och då. När i hösten och bakar i skon. Let's say a prayer. Let's say a prayer that the more things fall apart, the more they're becoming the truth. Every stripping away is a promise. The flesh, an old false cage. Comfort one another, fresh and wet, blood not yet hardened in your wings. Because you can't, you think, not ever. I tell you, not yet. It is winter, but spring is coming. Your body is soil, your eyes are stars. The world turns on its leather rope, and you will understand a little more. This is your invitation. This is your call and your response. Det ska bli mat åt jord och lund. Det ska bli mat åt jord och lund. Thank you. I didn't put in my bio that I grew up very nerdily Swedish, so and I also like to sing, so I thought you can't just listen to words that you understand all the time. So that's just a Swedish folk song to bookend that poem. I wrote that. It's been really fun to go back through poems. I've got some really sweet poems from a diary when I was a kid, and they're very much in the Roald Dahl style. There's one about a washing machine, and then the next verse is about his brother, the dryer, and it's very, it's very Brit-lit, and I think quite sweet, but I can remember my sister's godmother, who was a kind person and a very safe person, being so enthusiastic that I had written a poem, and because she also was a theater person, she was going to read it out loud, and I had to go stand in the hallway outside of the room because I couldn't handle somebody reading the poem and reading it out loud. So it's very funny because I also am an oral storyteller and I do a lot of theater, and I feel pretty comfortable usually at a microphone. But I've written a lot of poems for a lot of my life and not shared them, and now it feels like I get to go back and do some digging, which is really fun. And a theme that I think has always been really present for me, and that I'm noticing a lot now, has been descent, and that feminine heroine's journey, which instead of the hero's journey, which is out and seeing a new thing and coming back. There's a lovely book called The Heroine's Journey, and I don't remember the author, but she talks about how it's this inward, downward spiral, and uses Persephone and Inanna and a lot of others. So it's fun to see how that shows up in different ways. This is Persephone's first clean breath. No matter how small, don't overlook it. The abuse of the kind, tender self. This is the rape of Persephone. This is the flood, the fire, the crucifixion. Descend, descend, go deeper still, further still, darken fully, be burned, be forgotten, be grieved, and given up. See how the cutting whip breaks apart the toughened hide, how the lie eats away the hard, dead skin. Still wet from the womb, you have no debt, no sin, no angry word can cling to you. The dogs at the gates do not frighten you, nails cannot wound you, death cannot steal from you. You become, as with your earliest birth, slippery and naked, trembling and crying, but drawing in your first clean breath. You have brought nothing with you. Never will you fear this place again. So I grew up very Lutheran, and I wouldn't say we're known for expressing our feelings, but I do think we're known for being very mournful and melancholy. But on my other side of the family, I have a lot of Belgians, and I don't know if it's just those Belgians or if it's all Belgians, but they're pretty intense. It's mostly about food, and there's you don't hold back a whole lot. So I think sometimes that shows up. I actually had, I think the first time that I did therapy, I did this at one point, and the therapist said, "You should do that more. That's really healthy for you. You should let it out." So I'll share this one that is called "No Happy Ending," and then I promise, for those of you who are also Lutherans and a little bit worried, we will have some more cheerful things soon. There are so many paths to failure, and we are walking them all. Through the woods, over the cliff, by the pond, face down in the weeds, off the road, and into the belly of the wolf. Here we are the witch, reviled. There, the sweet little Goldilocks, breaking everything she touches. We're the giant, outwitted by the gallant, greedy youth. No matter what we save, count, hoard, love, it will be lost, and we will fall to our death from the sky. This is not a happy ending. These are the dark woods, grim fairy tales to keep you up at night. There is no happily ever after, only a spell, a curse, a trail of breadcrumbs leading to your inevitable death. But I grew up very culturally Lutheran, but not at ease with church at all, and especially not at ease with psalms, which seemed really cheerful and like not very good poetry, and sort of made me feel bad for not being more cheerful myself. But I really loved Ecclesiastes, which I feel like is kind of the same as that poem. You're gonna die, life is kind of hard, maybe you shouldn't worry about it or make such a fuss, have some wine with your friends. So I think about this quite a bit when it's this time of year living up here, because there's no more color, mostly, outside, and I'm not used to the cold yet, and when I first lived up here, I didn't know, as a lifelong Minnesotan, that you needed to take vitamin D. Moving 4 hours north made a difference. I needed to take vitamin D. And so November has been, it's such a transitional time. Tracks. When you want to lie down and die until spring, don't. Why not? Because when the air is so cold it hurts your face, the lake smokes like a cauldron in a Shakespeare play. When the snow stops falling and the wind is still, voles and field mice and squirrels come out to stitch their steps to make a map of the secret world of small things. Hidden here in plain sight, because ice breaks off in pancakes and shushes against itself, then heaps like sapphire treasure on the shore. Because frost flowers bloom and glass becomes canvas for spreading winter ferns. Because snowshoes can make a labyrinth. Because red pine boughs hold their heavy white until the wind passes by. Because winter teaches you how to make your own heat. That last summer's blueberries are precious. That we cannot survive alone. Don't close your eyes and miss all this. Small animal that you are, pull your furs tighter around yourself. The world is clean and fresh and new, just for you. Step out into it, and until the next storm comes, go and make your tracks. Thank you. This is I don't know if this is a poem or a story, so you can decide for yourself. The violet, the peonies, the death of an old woman, and the cat. The peonies and the violets had a serious talk about the state of things. The conversation occurred from the sill of the kitchen window and the swath of good dirt that lined the sidewalk below. The old woman had not been back. They knew, in fact, she never would be back, and they were talking now of what was to be done. "We are fine and well here in the garden," said the Peonies. "We will have enough to drink as long as the rain falls, and then there is even the water that runs deep within the earth. But what of you, little violets?" "Yes, this is a problem," the violets answered. "We have already begun to wilt at the edges and have sacrificed one leaf and flower each to keep ourselves going. Perhaps you could come down and live with us. It's fine here in the summer months. The rest of the year we know nothing about, for we are asleep." The violets had indeed considered this, but there were a few snags and questions that remained. For example, though they could smell and taste and touch the delicious fingers of the wind through the open window, there was a thin screen between, and it was sturdy, though old. Also, what would happen in those winter months? There would be no one to carry them down into the basement to bask in the artificial warmth of the lamp, and no one to repot them in the spring, and already their roots were cramped. But there would be soil and earth, and the violets had heard of worms. "Worms are the best," declared the Peonies when asked about it after some silence. "They crawl and squirm in such a pleasing way between your roots. We just love worms." Bugs were divided into categories of good and bad. And there were bad times. There were hard ones, but the Peonies said, "We have grown here 150 years, and there are things which one can endure that one wouldn't expect to survive." The violet plant was not so old as that. It could remember just faintly its beginnings in a room with heavy, humid air, the darkness of the life it had had as a seed, and its colorful place among the others of the greenhouse. It remembered the day the old woman had taken it home. Home. It would still be home, but a garden bed is different than a cozy windowsill. "I might die," whispered the violet softly. "Yes," said the Peonies, "you might. But death is not the same for us as for the old woman. We put down roots and cast out seeds, and we remain. We are still the self-same plant we were a century ago." There is risk, but there is renewal. So the violet made up its mind, shaking its purple petals to make itself more certain. "Call the cat," it said. And the Peonies did. They waited only a short while up on the fence separating the two backyards before there leapt a great orange creature. He was a fine cat and had liked the old woman well, though she had always tried to coax him to come in. "I'm an alley cat, an outside cat," he had explained to the Peonies one night as he hid in the shadow of their full blossoms in wait for a mouse. "I belong to many people and I belong to no one. If I came and lived here, what would the people at all the other houses and all the other alleys think? A cat must be free to make his own fate." He leapt down from the fence and with a quick glance to the open yard crossed it and sat. "Well?" The Peonies spoke. "We need your help, if you'd be so good as to give it. My friend Violet is trapped beneath the netting of the window, and she would like to come out." The cat twitched his whiskers, looked up. "Of course," he said. He had enjoyed the shade and the cool of the Peonies many times in the heat of summer, and he had caught delicious, crunchy crickets there, too. He leapt up to the windowsill nimbly. The violet felt quite shy in his presence. It was much different than talking with the Peony, who was out of doors, but still firmly planted in the ground. And here was a cat, a rambler, a creature of his own making. He wandered at will, and she felt sure he would never have hesitated, considered waiting in the house for some grown grandchild to come and rescue him. He lifted a claw, long and curved and sharp, and cut in one motion through the flimsy screen that had been so impassable for her. It hung in shreds and fluttered lightly. The night, cool now, was upon them. The violet looked out at the world which she was about to enter, all of it new and close. But there was no point in staying where she was, and so So she threw herself out the opening and tumbled into the dark below. The peonies caught her. She lay on her side for a moment, the pulse of water within her quick and startling. But the sky was above her now, and it was beautiful. She stared, and her fall and her fear were forgotten. The lights, they were so different than anything she had seen before, and their little beams reached down from so high up. She lay still for some time, until the peonies bent their sticky heads down. "Are you all right?" She nodded her little velvet bonnet flowers at them. "Now, Sir Cat, if you will help us with one more thing." He rose from his spot in the cool grass, and next to where she had fallen, he began to dig. His paws pulled the heavy, damp earth up in clumps and rained it down in a patter on the peonies and the sidewalk and the grass. When the hole was big enough, the violet rolled herself, and the cat gave a push with his nose, and there she sat, neatly in the real, living Mother Earth. He sent another spray of dirt and covered her exposed roots that had grown out all the way to the edges of the little plastic pot. It felt cool and good, and she laughed to herself to think of the space she had now. It was all quite marvelous and unexpected. "Anything else?" asked the Orange Tom. "No, thank you, dear. Will we see you again?" The cat nodded silently, twitched the tip of its tail, streaked up the fence, and was gone. It is June, and the warm season stretches long before them. The old woman is gone. The cat will come back. And soon, the violets will know how it feels to have a worm, wet and curious, stretching between her roots. Thank you. We'll have another writer here in a moment, and so I'll just finish with a short song about a crow who dances, and of all the birds who dance, the crow is the finest. Kråkedansen dansar vi och jorden är fast under. Inga fågel flyger högre än kråkan då hon sjunger. Kråkedansen dansar vi och jorden är fast under. Inga fågel flyger högre än kråkan då hon sjunger. Thank you so much.